Hello, this is Skylit Lake reading Super Science by thatchickendude. Chapter 58. A Day in the Life. Professor, Professor! A little voice called to Egon through dreamland, breaking the peaceful fantasy as he attempted to return to it, but still sat in the darkness between waking and unwaking. 5 more minutes, he complained, hoping the little voice would go away. It did go away for 3 seconds, and right at that time he went back to dreamland, only for the little voice to start jumping on his stomach while saying, "Wake up, wakey wakey!" Fine, I'm up. Egon finally jostled his body to make his little jumping friend stop jumping. He broke out of his limbo and opened his eyes to see a smiling Eri looking at him on his stomach. Taking in the first morning breath, he said, "Good morning, Eri," only to get 2 paws pushed down against his cheeks and look over to see an old Maine Coon cat poking at him, making an impact now. Breathing again, he greeted, "And good morning to you, Log." "Good morning, Professor Egon," Eri said back to him, rolling onto her stomach and mimicking the cat, Log, by placing her hand on his face. "Just call me Egon, Eri," Egon told the girl as he removed both their hands from his face. Finally, Egon sat up, stretched out like a cat, before rolling off the bed and kneeling by it. He said to the child, "Okay, let's take a bath and then start the day." Eri excitedly jumped from his spot and ran towards the bathroom. Egon followed long behind her, and once again he saw the young girl running at the bath and throwing in her favorite toys. He chuckled and then adjusted the water so it wouldn't boil or freeze when they got in. As the water ran, Egon and Eri brushed their teeth and combed out their hair to prepare for the bath. Once the tub was full, Egon and Eri washed and scrubbed themselves, with Egon doing most of the work for Eri. As they cleaned up, Egon played an old Italian song that he sang, and badly on purpose, making Eri laugh hysterically. "When the moon hits your eyes like a big pizza pie, that amore," he sang with the old man as Eri clapped. When the second verse came up, Egon grabbed a cup of water from the bath, put it in his mouth, and began to gargle the words, only for regret to take over as he spat it out and choked. There was way more soap in that than I expected, making Eri laugh even harder. After the bath, Egon wrapped Eri in a towel and himself in a bathrobe. He then brushed out Eri's hair straight from any knots and moved her to her bedroom, where he picked out 3 of her outfits. If he didn't do this, she would pick the same outfit every day. "So, what kind of outfit do you want today?" he asked the girl while sitting on the floor. Eri took a while to review the 3 options, an amount of time that Log didn't seem to like as he loudly complained, "Meow." Egon pushed the cat away and scolded, "Not now, Log. Eri needs to think about what outfit to pick out." "This one," Eri finally said, pointing to an outfit consisting of blue overalls, a red shirt, a pink bow, and shoes. Once Eri and Egon had their clothes on, they both moved to the kitchen for breakfast, where a confident cat voiced his annoyance at not having his food. "Meow," Log cried. Yes, Log, I'm getting your food, you grumpy old cat." Egon groaned at the old cat. Professor, Eri calls him. Egon, he corrected. Why do you call the kitty Log? She asked, while looking down at the cat, who was looking at the spot where his food bowl should be. When I found him, I swear he was the log in the woods, though at that time he was more like a twig. Egon explains as he fills his bowl and puts it down at his feet. From there, Egon prepared a Japanese-style breakfast. As they sat down to eat, Pete the dodo walked out of his indoor nesting box and came out to his food bowl filled with mixed bird pellet. After eating the whole thing in just a few fast pecks, he tried to go after the much slower eating log, who hissed at the bird and swatted him away. Seeing this play out, Eri called out, Professor Egon. Egon looked up from his phone, reading news, as Eri asked him, Why do we bring Pete to the laboratory and not Log? Egon swallows his food and answers, Log is pretty old and doesn't like to move around much, so I leave him here to his own devices. He has plenty of things to keep him busy. Pete, on the other hand, he begins to say this until Pete suddenly honks in fear from Log chasing him and eventually running him into a wall. He needs constant surveillance, he finishes up. After cleaning up the breakfast and packing for the trip ahead, the three of them load themselves into Egon's car. Egon was nearly as excited and as happy as Eri to ride in his car, since it was his very first one. Unfortunately, having never driven before, Egon had to solicit the help of a robot driver, which he didn't mind at all. After they were safely secured, Egon told the driver, Take us to the facility, Jeeves. The robot beeped and drove the car to the destination. Due to the damage occurred by the invasion, the normal front entrance had to be moved somewhere else in the building, while that was blocked off due to security issues. They even had dozens of military guarding the building, courtesy of the Prime Minister, as they waited for the new facility to be made. Security was the highest issue for them. When they reached the new front entrance, Egon helped Eri out of a booster seat and let Pete out of his cage. As they walked through the door, Egon exclaimed, Good morning, party people. Good morning, Professor Eri Pete, Megan and Josie said at the same time. Good morning, Miss Josie, and good morning, Miss Morgana. Eri greeted them both back with a bow. I'm Megan, sweetie, Megan corrected her. Oh, Eri said with a despondent expression. Megan patted her head and told them, It's okay, you'll get the hang of it. Everyone always gets us confused at first. Egon leaned down to her and whispered, You can tell by the hair. This realization made Eri's eyes glow. After this, they quickly stopped by Egon's office, where he dropped off his things, and Pete waddled around the room. Then they set off for the daily ritual. Their first stop was the creature division, where Egon announced to the many different rooms holding the different creatures, Good morning, animals. Good morning, animals, Eri announced far more shyly. They then put on their winter parkas and entered Gameth's enclosure with a bucket of apples. Good morning, Gameth, Eri said to the huge animal, handing her apple after apple. After this, they went to the aquatic subsection, and Eri approached a glass of one of the larger aquariums and said into a hydrophone, Good morning, Starro. Good morn, Starro greeted back, still trying to learn human speech. Much more confident and less shy than this morning, she ran out of the aquatic subsection and onto the large creature base, where she went to a door and yelled, "Good morning, Torch!" She stopped and got sad as she realized her dragon friend was gone. "Oh," she said in realization while looking at the ground. Egon placed a hand on her shoulder and assured her, "It's okay, Eri. Once we have an assured way to get to and from Pacifica, you can go visit Torchwick as much as you like." She looked up at him with watery eyes and nodded with a smile. After this, they went into the only remaining bug house in the facility. There they saw Professor Genus taking notes on a bunch of butterflies that swarmed around him. "Morning, Genus," Egon greeted him. The man looked up from his pad and replied, "Morning, boss, and morning to you, Eri." "What you working on today?" Egon inquires as Eri runs around chasing the butterflies. "I just finished it. I was working with some of the dead copies of Starro and successfully spliced it into a butterfly," Genus explained to him. "Splicing alien DNA into something from Earth. Well, I'll be damned," Egon said with an impressed tone, pushing back his hair. "I made the butterfly with blank DNA, so that helped quite a bit," Genus told him, making Egon nod his head in understanding. "So, what was the result?" Egon asked. Genus smiles excitedly and says, "I'll show you. Eri, can you come here for a second and stay still?" Ariel does so and walks up to the man. "Good job. Now I'm gonna put this butterfly on your face. Okay?" he tells her as Ariel excitedly nods her head. The man then takes a butterfly and places it over her eyes. The insect's multicolored wing pattern merged into the form of an eye, and its wings were long enough to cover and act as false eyes. Eri giggled at the tickling sensation on her nose, but she suddenly goes stiff as a statue when the wings fold over her eyes, making Egon flinch. "Okay, Eri, now put your right foot in and your right foot out, your right foot in and shake it all about, and do the hokey pokey and turn yourself round," Genus told her, and the girl danced. Egon tightly holds the man's shoulder and demands, "Explanation?" "These are brainflies," Genus tells him in a happy yet proud tone. "Ew." Egon cringes as he backs away and tries to swat away the dozens of butterflies around him. Genus realized his reaction and then followed up while rubbing the back of his head. "Yeah, I'm still working on the name. Anyway, they had the same effect as Starro's mind control copies, but without the whole, rip your face off and kill you thing." Egon points his eyes at the still dancing girl, and Genus quickly picks up on it before taking the butterfly off her face with ease. Eri stops at one and looks confused and drained as she asked, dazed, "What happened?" "Professor Genus here was going to show you how this butterfly works by using me, right?" This made the man question in his head what he wanted. Then he realized he wanted to be seen as the lab rat and not Eri. So he took the same butterfly and placed it on his face. Everything went into a white haze for what seemed like seconds, but when he came back to reality, he saw Eri on the ground and laughing her butt off. "So, what you make me do?" Egon asked after collecting his bearings. "The chicken dance." The chicken dance, Genus whispered to him. Egon playfully slapped him and said back in a fake insulted tone, "You're horrible." "I know," Genus laughed back. After this, Eri and Egon went around to all the other divisions and said hello to everyone else. The most surprising reaction of all came from Dr. Wiley. As Eri ran into his room, the old man was furiously typing at his computer, unaware of her presence. "Good morning, Mr. Wiley," Eri said out of the blue. The man jumped out of his seat and covered his monitor, only to calm down when he saw it was only Eri. He sighs and wants to yell at her, but he sees Egon poke his head in, so he takes another approach. "Don't do that, little girl. I'm old and could die. Also, please leave. I have no time for idle greetings and have a great deal of work," Wiley told the girl while waving him off with his hand. Eri looked disappointed by his reaction and left, causing a suspicious Egon to leave the room last. Once both were gone, he breathed a sigh of relief and took out the shard of the Singularity Soul he had kept hidden in his desk. Licking his lips at the object, he chuckled at himself. From here, the two made their way down the hallway, where they saw Izuku coming out of his office. Getting excited by seeing her second favorite person, Eri ran up to the unsuspecting boy and grabbed his legs while saying, "Good morning, Izuku." "Good morning, Eri," Izuku greeted back, holding back the urge to kick her out of shock. He leaned down and hugged her back as he saw his mentor approach and say, "Morning, Egon," to which he greeted back with a grunt and head nod accompanied by a smile. "Well, I see you've completed your daily ritual of good mornings to everyone in the facility," the voice of Dr. Cephalopod said as he walked into the room on his tentacles with a coffee mug in hand. "Good morning, Professor Cephalopod," Eri greeted him. "And good morning to you as well, Eri. Ready for your class?" Otto asked her. "Yeah," she stated as she took one of his tentacles and waved back. "Bye-bye, Egon. Bye-bye, Izuku." Izuku waved her off and looked over to see Egon waving to her too, and on the verge of tears. He sweated and asked, "Do you always have to get so emotional at this part?" "Oh, they grow up so fast though." Egon finally broke into an explosion of emotional sobs. Eri was led into a mock classroom where Otto stood as her teacher and taught her all her core learning activities. Despite being held back from any schooling for many years, Eri was incredibly bright and picked up on things quickly. After a few hours of class, Otto decided to reward her efforts with a movie. So he put on The Lion King and let Eri get absorbed by it as he got absorbed in the art of war. After some time into the movie, Eri asked, "Professor Cephalopod, what's a dad?" The professor stopped the movie and asked what she said. Eri repeated her question, and Otto put his book down while wiping sweat away as he told her, "I'm the last person to be asking that, since mine died after he and my mum consummated for the first and last time." Eri just looked at him confused, and Otto, seeing this confusion, offered, "But let me get you someone else to answer that." The octopus took out his phone and sent a text. A few minutes later, Egon came into the classroom and asked, "Everything okay, Otto?" "Yes, Eri had a question, and I think you're the best one to answer it," Otto says to the expectantly waiting girl. Egon walks over, kneels down to her desk, and she says, What's a dad? Eri put on his thinking face as he tells her. A dad, A dad is someone who takes care of you, looks after you, spends time with you, protects you, and makes you happy, and is a man. Does that answer your question? Yes, I think. Eri nods with uncertainty, while thinking about it to herself. Okay then, have a good day at class, he says as he walks back to the door. Just before he leaves, he hears Eri say, Okay, bye-bye, Dad. At this, Egon falls to the ground, right in between the automatic doors, which try to close on his body. Can someone get the defibrillator? Egon went into cardiac arrest again. Otto called out over the PA system. He hangs up, just as fast, and says with an exasperated grunt, That man seriously needs a pacemaker. Later, in the middle of the day, Egon, Izuku, and Eri all congregate at the front of the building and wave their arms while chanting in sync. Oh boy, 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 oh boy. Honey and Lemon, who was walking by this area, couldn't help but stop, stare at the trio, and ask aloud, What are you doing? Waiting for their favourite part of the day, Megan replied to her with a chuckle. Just then, Inko walked through the door with 3 bento boxes and said with a smile, Hi, boys. The 3 of them threw their arms in the air and made a whooping noise of excitement. They lined up and happily received a box each. For you, sweetie? Inko said to Izuku as she kissed his cheek. Thanks, Mum, Izuku said back as he took the box and happily skipped away. And for you, my tall drink of water, Inko said in a saucy tone. Egon leaned down to her, took the box, and began to nuzzle her as he purred. Thanks, short, silky, and curvy. As the 2 of them did their thing, Izuku made a vomiting noise as he complained. Oh God, please don't make me puke when I'm about to eat. And so he ran off before they could continue. Inko then kneeled down and handed off the last box as she said, And one for you, Eri dear. Thank you, Miss Midoriya. Eri thanked her with a bow, making the woman smile. Any time. You all have a good day now. She walked them off and blew a kiss to Aegon, who caught it and placed it in his pocket. Eri saw this and decided to mimic it. He blew a kiss to Egon, who caught it and placed it in his other pocket with a smile. Hankoyo, please tell me you finally freed your friend from that chamber. If she gets any bigger, she's going to get crushed by her mass. Egon practically begged the man over the phone, as construction noises could be heard on the other end. Hankoyo, sounding equally stressed by the situation, tried to assure him in a calm tone. I know, but we're making progress. An explosion erupted on the phone line. Hankoyo was silent for a moment before following up. Somewhat. Egon sighed and then asked him, Has she had any more kids? Thankfully, no, but she did eat the one still left. Have you thought of any way to transfer her to Pacifica? By the time we get here free, that cargo ship is going to make landfall on the subcontinent, Hankoyo informed him. Egon rubbed his temples in stress as he remembered how he couldn't hold the cargo ship any longer. He thought of breaking out one of the giant spiders would be easier, but that was easier said than done. The room where the Singularity Soul was housed was far stronger than even he realized. On the one hand, he was glad his overpreparedness kept it so their greatest treasure couldn't be stolen. On the other hand, it made situations like this more difficult than they had to be. I'm hoping to charter another one, but we'll see, Egon tells the man. Wait, hold on, Ungliot! Hunkoyo suddenly yelled, and the sound of braking could be heard, as well as the wind. Egon instantly panicked and yelled as he stood up from his seat. Hunkoyo, Hunkoyo, what's happening? After a bit of what sounded like static and struggle, Hunkoyo nearly yelled back. Ungliot just broke out of the chamber, by herself, and we're heading for the ocean. What? Are you on her? The ocean's miles away, Egon exclaimed in confusion. She jumped, Hunkoyo told him, as he sounded as if he was holding on to something for dear life. Before Egon could act, his nearby TV blared to life, and news anchors announced, This just in, a giant spider has been seen jumping its way through the east side of Japan towards the harbours. It doesn't seem to be a threat at this time, but... The anchors stopped as they received something in their ear and then continued reporting, We just got a live feed of what appears to be a spider attempting to make a raft. Going live now. The feed cuts to live footage of Ungliot jumping an extremely long and high distance before coming down gracefully and only damaging the road below to a minor degree before jumping again. On her back was a very frightened Hunkoyo who was holding on for his very life. She then stopped at the docking system where the cargo ship headed to Pacifica was and arched her thorax towards her. She then started to spin webs faster and faster until a hurricane of webs surrounded her body. She jumped into the air once more and spread the webs out all over her bottom, where they expanded tenfold over the ocean. When she hit the surface of the water, instead of sinking, she floated on what looked like a makeshift raft made in the shape of a spider's web. Ungliot then sat down and used all her legs to paddle out to sea, and much faster than expected. Dear gods, Egon mouthed. He then heard Hunkoyo say over the phone with the line cut off, Sir, do I still have that paid time off? 'Cause I think Ungliot and I are taking a trip out to sea. Yeah, that's fine. You don't think she's going to Pacifica, do you? He asked, half mindless, watching the spectacle. If not, then the only other reason is that she smells the pheromones of another giant spider, Hunkoyo guesses. Happily sailing, I guess. I'll call that cargo ship and tell them to wait until you get there, he tells the man before the line cuts off. Putting the phone down to cover his face and sighing, he heard his office phone ring aloud. Without looking at the caller ID, he flatly said, What now? Was that your giant spider I saw on the news? The Prime Minister asked him in an impatient tone. Yes, it was, Prime Minister. We went over this a few days ago. It's going to Pacifica. Or at least I hope so. Have a good day, he quickly and boldly told her before hanging up and leaning his head back to try ease the growing headache. Later, Egon, Izuku, and the CEO of Uraraka Construction Co. were having an outdoor meeting about the construction plans for the new NIP building. Izuku had worked tirelessly to draw out the plans with Hatsume, but they did it, and everything was either laid out or spread across a corkboard. Looking over this, the CEO blinked several times before asking, You want us to make it that big? Yes, that big, Egon answered while pointing to a sheet that had the size measurements written down. My goodness, he explained. We also want to make a dorm, Izuku added. Oh my goodness, the CEO once again exclaimed. Is it doable? Izuku inquired, not liking his reaction. The man rubbed his eyes as he looked over all the detailed plans and told them I mean, yes, it is, but it'll be expensive and long. Money is no object to us. Egon waved his hands, causing the man to clutch his chest in shock. And don't worry about time. We have some tools you can use to speed things along, Izuku told him as he took out a tool that looked like a large two-handed gun with a splinter half inserted at the top. Izuku placed the weapon on the table and the man grabbed it, holding it in his hands. When his finger got a little too close to the trigger, Izuku jumped and exclaimed, "Just be careful, they overhit real quickly." The man took his finger off the trigger, and Izuku took it back while telling him, "If they do, take out the splinter to keep it from cracking." Izuku then held the button down and unlocked a latch that released the splinter. He pulled it out and placed it on the table, while the man grabbed and examined the crystal. "Just be careful when handling the splinter raw. The quirk inside of it is pretty..." Izuku tried to tell him until the man popped his hands on the nearby rock, turning it into a misshapen thing of spikes. "Dangerous." He trailed off as the man quickly placed the splinter back on the table. "And even if you do get it done early, we'll still pay you the full amount for the time it would have taken," Egon informed him. The man wiped sweat from his face at this news as he smiles widely behind his hand before saying in a disorganized way, "I don't know what to say except, ah!" He screams out with a high-pitched screech. "That is quite the response," Izuku congratulated him. "That wasn't me," the man told him. They heard screaming again and looked up to see a young girl around Izuku's age flying down towards them. They all backed away as she landed hard and without any drawbacks. She raised her head from her superhero landing and yelled, looking at the scientist, "Are you the ones who signed the huge contract with my parents' businesses?" The girl in question was Ochako Uraka, the CEO's daughter. Yes, who are you?" Egon asked her, not realizing who she was. Thank you so much!" She began to kiss their feet in praise. Egon and Izuku jumped away from her offer and lifted their legs. Egon exclaimed, "Young lady, please don't do that." "Ochako, honey," Uraka Sr. exclaimed as he pulled his daughter to their feet and held her back. But I have to say thank you for doing this. This contract will bring my parents out of the red. I'll do anything to thank you, anything." Ochako practically yelled at them with arms open. Egon's hairs stood on end and all the red flags were going off inside his head as Izuku tried to make himself as inconspicuous as possible. Standing a good arm's length away from the girl, Egon exclaimed, "Young lady, please don't say that to an adult and a horny teenager." "Egon!" Izuku said in shock. "What?" Egon shot back. Izuku's sighs exasperated and turned to Ochako, offering her, "If you want to thank us, then how about donating a blood sample from each of your family members so I can make them into splinters?" Ochako immediately and rapidly nodded her head as she agreed. "Yes, of course. Thank you so much." With that said, she broke from her dad and wrapped Izuku in the first hug he received from a girl who wasn't his mum. The boy could feel her soft skin, her toned body, her warm breaths, and her boobs. Holy crap, boobs! Izuku froze like a deer in headlights at the hug. He stood there like a statue even after Ochako broke away and ran off happily. Egon, seeing an opportunity, patted the boy's shoulder and whispered in a sing-song tone, "She's kind of cute." Izuku broke out of his stupor and whipped his head to the man with a blush on his face as he yelled, "Egon!" Seeing and realizing what was happening, Uraka Sr. joined in with a hearty laugh and exclaimed, "Ha! If you ask to marry my daughter today, I'd give you my blessings now." "Oh my God!" Izuku yelled while curling into a ball and covering his face. The end of the day had finally came, and for once in a long time, Egon was able to leave in time with everyone else. As he locked the door for the night, he turned to his tired employees and said, "Good night, everyone." "Good night, Professor," they all said together. "Good night, everyone." Eri mimicked him far more shyly, hiding her face behind his leg. "Good night, Eri," everyone said back in unison with a smile. From there, Egon, Eri, and Pete all climbed into a car where the robot driver was waiting. After telling him to head home, they all buckled in for a ride. Once the car parked back in the familiar driveway, they all filed out back to the front door. Once unlocked, Egon practically kicked it open as he always does, knowing his cat wouldn't be waiting by it. Once he let Pete out of his carrier and threw his bags to the side, he slumped into his easy chair and said, "Phew! Home sweet home! What a day!" "Hi, Log," Eri said to the old cat as he napped on the throw pillow on the floor. Eventually, Eri made her way onto Egon's chest, where she stared at him with big pleading eyes. Egon sighed, knowing what the girl wanted, and asked her, "So what do you want for dinner tonight?" Eri thought about this for a minute before answering, "Something spicy." Egon thought for a bit, smiled, picked her up, and walked to the kitchen, saying, "I have just the thing." From there, he put the girl at the table and prepared the meal. Eri kept herself occupied by drawing, and when the food was done, he plated the food with an extra serving of spicy curry from the pan. The two gave thanks and began to eat. Although the spice was extremely mild, Eri kept needing milk throughout every bite she took until the milk jug was empty. After cleaning up, Egon helped Eri choose and put on PJs, since she wasn't sure how to dress herself. Once she was ready for bed, Egon took her to her bed, where she asked, "Will you read me a story tonight?" She pulled a book out from the bookshelf by her bed and handed it to him. "But this is the same story I read every night," Egon told her as he looked over the same book. "It's my favorite," Eri said with a pleading pout. Egon sighs and tells her, Okay, then sit close." Egon sits on the bed where Eri takes a seat on his lap, and he begins to read the book that he reads every night over and over again. Throughout the story, Eri grows more and more sleepy, her head and eyelids drooping until eventually she snuggled into his side and was fast asleep. As he finishes the book, he picked up the girl, placed her into the bed, and tucked her in while kissing her on the forehead. "Good night, Eri. Sweet dreams," he told her in a soft voice. Just before leaving the room, he heard the girl say back in a small voice, "Good night, Dad," making the man smile as he closed the door and went into his room. There, he changed into his sleepwear and jumped into bed. He looked at the calendar beside his bed and realized that this was the first week that Eri hadn't had any nightmares. He's glad to see Eri healing and coping with her trauma, but that doesn't mean he's nightmare-free. Ever since the invasion from the Yakuza and the villains, Egon has found himself waking up in the middle of the night, drenched in cold sweat. He was thinking and worrying about what would happen if they did not succeed. What would happen to Eri if they couldn't protect her? What would happen to his staff? What would happen to the UA students? What would happen to Izuku? What would happen in general? But he didn't have to worry about that. He would be better next time. He would make sure he wouldn't have nightmares. He would make sure everyone was safe. Hey fishies. Sorry about the audio quality, not audio quality, my voice quality, because I am losing my voice. Woohoo! That's not fun at all. It's just, my voice is so sore. It's like, it's choking on everything. And I can barely do Eri's voice properly. Like, when I try to do Eri's voice, it's like, it's so much strain on my voice. Anyway, I've decided on what fic I'm gonna replace Super Science with. It's Deku Sensei. How do you like that? I'm pretty sure I'm gonna be the first person to read Deku Sensei. I'm not counting the AI voices because what are they doing? They're copy and pasting it into an AI voice text to speech generator. They're not doing proper work. AI is a scam. Don't fall for it. Anyway, I'll see you guys later. Bye!